Hello, my name is Greg Bulmash, and I'm here to talk to you about content discoverability in GitHub repositories. I'm going to talk a bit about a discoverability journey I went on while I was working at Amazon Alexa. I have to disclaim that I am no longer officially with Alexa, and at the time of developing this presentation, not employed by Amazon. Companies with external developer audiences often use GitHub to deliver code samples. It's well known to developers, they can file issues and pull requests, and you can use a variety of licenses. When I was on the Alexa Skills Kit developer education team, I managed the Alexa Cookbook repository, a huge mono-repository of snippets, samples, guides, and even end-to-end demos. It was dozens of megabytes, hundreds of folders, and even more files. It was hard to navigate and has thankfully been archived/retired. I was able to improve some things early on, but the issues with the repo were really hammered home about a year later when an executive emailed me asking where the Alexa Conversations pizza ordering skill demo went. Here's a search from the top of the Alexa organization in GitHub. Notice how the most prominent message is that there are no matching repositories. It's because the term we searched for isn't part of a repository's name. Only when you look at the small table on the left do you see that there are results. In fact, if we click on the code category, which has 13 results, we find the exact code sample he was looking for. But any of us who have worked on UI or UX know that people aren't likely to even look at that small table. It's not because they're lazy, but because they've been misled. The biggest, boldest letters on the page are telling you it can't be found. There's an old joke about a helicopter pilot who gets lost in the fog. He approaches a skyscraper and can see someone at a window. He grabs a pad and writes, "Where am I?" on it, and shows it to the person in the skyscraper. The person in the skyscraper grabs a pad of paper and writes on it, then holds it to the window. It says, "You're in a helicopter." The problem with some interfaces are that while the information the customer receives is technically correct, it isn't very helpful. So the customers who think your content isn't there aren't bad people. They're not lazy. They're just reacting to a bad experience. And more to the point, you don't often have the opportunity to teach your customers the finer points of searching GitHub. So, we've established that GitHub's internal search is not optimal or particularly user-friendly, so let's try Google. Now, if I just try Alexa pizza ordering, I get a bunch of third-party results. If I add GitHub to the search term, I finally get an actual Alexa-owned link at the 9th result. But it's the launch blog for Alexa Conversations, and it mentions the pizza ordering reference skill only in terms of its availability as a starter template in Alexa-hosted skills. There's no link to the repo. The only GitHub link in the entire article is a link titled Alexa Conversations GitHub Sample Code in the More Information section, which goes to a different demo skill called Pet Match that recommends dogs. Okay, let's assume I'm not rushing, and I know the exact name, and I build a more complex search phrase, Alexa Conversations Pizza Reference Skill GitHub. The top 4 Google results all go to Alexa-owned repos, but none are the correct one. See the notations under the results? None of them include pizza. It's only the 5th result, not pictured, which goes to an Alexa documentation page for conversations. That page is not the sample, but does have a link to the GitHub sample. But that's a pretty roundabout way to find it. The deeper in your site's folder structure, as determined by the number of forward slashes after the domain name, the less relevant Google considers the document. So let's look at the folder depth of the 2 URLs. The documentation page URL is 4 folders off the root URL, developer.amazon.com. The GitHub URL is 7 folders off the top, so deep it seems Google has decided it's of such low value it doesn't come up in search results. Let's go back a dozen slides because this is worth pointing out again. When a customer wanted to get this one code sample, if they even knew it was in the cookbook, they had to clone the entire cookbook repo and find it inside the 307 folders or scrape the files from the GitHub website, if they could find them. So what are my 5 tips for better content discoverability on GitHub? Tip 1, some people might window shop your repositories just looking to see what you have available, but when they need to get stuff done, they'll search. So the next 4 tips are all about repository SEO. They aren't intended to elevate your repo higher than a competitor's repo in search results. They're simply intended to get it to actually show up in search results. An organization is like a username in your GitHub URL. It's 1 level off the top, and your repo name slug is 2 levels off the top, instead of 7 levels in a buried folder name. The cookbook monorepository was in the Alexa organization. Just before I left Alexa, we finally started an Alexa samples organization, reinforcing for both customers and bots that the repositories in this space were samples. We moved all the samples that we planned to keep maintaining into it as a top-level repository, whether they'd been top-level before or deep in the cookbook. Again, that puts the repository name slug 2 folders off the top, not 7. So let's take one of those samples and search Google for it. Alexa audio player. There we go! It's the first result on Google. What if we just go to GitHub's top level and search for it? First and third results. Top is the Node version that's more actively maintained, and third is the Python version. Remember how the pizza ordering demo skill was called the pizza reference skill in its folder name? Not even internal people called it that, except the developer who created the folder name. Audio player is a very common phrase. Pizza reference isn't. That brings up a subpoint of this tip. Using words your customers would use in your repo name helps a lot, but how do you figure those out? You might think you can just grab random people and ask them to try to find it on Google, taking note of what they use as search terms. But remember, if you say, try to Google the pizza reference skill, they will often use the phrase pizza reference skill because you just put it at the tippy top of their memory. Your own terminology becomes self-reinforcing. Whatever you tell them you want to search for, they'll often use the words you use to describe it. It's the power of suggestion and action. Try to think of the top 3 to 4 descriptive words your customers would use, and make that a part of no more than 4 to 6 words in your slug. That will be the repository name in the URL. Pizza ordering Alexa conversations demo skill, for example. Put them in order of importance. Whether Alexa conversations or pizza ordering is the most important phrase would be up to you. A couple of long-proven tips in helping Googlebot understand what your pages are about are that the H1 text is considered more important in determining the keywords for a page than the body text. Bold text is more important than plain text. But if you make everything H1 and bold, it will prove the old adage, if everything's important, then nothing is important. Think about the H1 at the top of the root directory readme. Make it meaningful for humans and bots. And do the same with the first line of text below it. A good strategy is to rephrase the repo name as the headline of the readme. You reinforce the idea, but with different keywords and/or a different order. So while the repo slug name might be Alexa Conversations Pizza Ordering Skill Demo, the headline of the readme might be Order Pizza with the Alexa Conversations Demo Skill. Remember how we actually found that pizza ordering skill via Google? Through a link to it on another page. On top of that, Google uses the actual text you link as another factor to help determine the linked page's relevant keywords, which is why click here is always such a horrible phrase to link. Also, The number of backlinks using your preferred text are signals to Google of the page's relevance to those words. So let's say you've got a post on your developer blog announcing a launch or update of the repo. Link every mention of the repo to the repo with an important keyword in the link text. Now, linking every mention is not going to influence the bot that much, but it will also drive more clicks by customers. They shouldn't have to wait until the end of the post or scroll back up to the beginning to find that link. If you have an influencer program like Alexa Champions or AWS Heroes, suggest link texts for them to use in their blogs talking about the repo. Deep link into your repo from the README pointing at important features. Even internal links improve discoverability, both from a browsing and searching perspective. And if you have included a samples directory in, say, an SDK or API client repo, and you believe it's truly better for them to be there than in their own repos, the top README should link to the samples directory. The directory should have a README with descriptions and links to the samples, and each samples directory should have a README with the description again. And this is not just for bots, it's for customers too. How many public restrooms put the hand dryer instructions in the hallway outside and expect you to remember them when you're at the sink? Unless you're keyword spamming, good SEO and good user experience reinforce each other, whether in your web pages or your GitHub repos. So, remember where our journey really started, when someone looking for a specific code demo couldn't find it. As the old biblical paraphrasing goes, don't hide your light under a bushel. And if you're not familiar with what a bushel is, it's 4 pecks. Yes, like in pickled peppers. And for those of you who always wanted to know how many pickled peppers Peter Piper picked, a peck is equal to 8.81 liters in volume. It's amazing what you can find online. Make your code samples on GitHub easier to find and make developers happier. Thanks for listening. I'm Greg Bulmash, Let My People Code on Twitter and GitHub, and I blog regularly at letmypeoplecode.com. And in the words of the philosophers Bill S. Preston and Ted Theodore Logan, be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes! Thank you.